Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Hi everybody, I'm Ian Battersby. I'm host for the ISO Show, also a senior isology consultant with Blackmores UK. Today's episode, I'm going to look at leadership. I'm not going to give necessarily much of my own opinion on leadership. I'm going to stick to what the standards say on leadership, specifically ISO 9001:2015. All the standards include something on leadership, but I'll keep to what they want and less of my opinion, if that's all right. I'll give a little opinion at the beginning. I believe that leadership is central to success in achieving any goal in business. It involves motivating a group of people towards a sort of common pursuit, and it's not necessarily straightforward. And it's certainly not straightforward without leadership believing in what it's doing. Without showing that form of belief, why would the workforce take note of what people say? And I have first-hand experience of where that lack of belief has failed an organisation. A member of staff is perfectly entitled to ask the question, if it's not important to you as a senior manager, why should it be important to me? So I believe that belief is central to everything. Now, the need for leadership's been recognised by the standards bodies, I believe, hence why it's been made central to all of the management system standards. For many years, management systems tended to be separate from the day-to-day activities of running a business. You could get away with a person in a room off the shop floor with a set of manuals, getting through every certification exercise and receiving a nice badge saying it's a lovely management system. But that management system may have no impact on the organisation. On the bottom line, and let's be honest, businesses are in business to make money, so it has to contribute in some manner. But a well-run management system can have huge impacts and benefits on all types of organisation. And the new standards aim to deliver that impact more readily. So leadership gets its own clause in these new standards. That's how important it is. And it gets lots of other references throughout standards to boot. It's not just restricted to a single clause. It is mentioned throughout. So clause 5, leadership, which is broken down into three different things in the standard. This is 9001 specific. Clause 5.1, leadership and commitment. So it doesn't want just leadership, it wants commitment as well. And that's broken down further. It's got some general requirements, but also requirements related to customer focus, which is, again, a central premise of 9001. Clause 5.2 is on policy, okay? And then 5.3 is on organisational roles, responsibilities and authorities. Very important to spell out what is expected within the organisation of different people and different types of people. So, clause 5.1 says top management, however you define that, the board, senior leadership team, whatever it is you might call them, shall demonstrate leadership and commitment. How? Well, it actually gives a whole bunch of examples, requirements even, that the senior management of an organisation should do. Now, first one is taking accountability for effectiveness of the system. How? How do they take accountability? Firstly, the system can only be effective if it's been designed correctly. So they must ensure that it fits with the context of the organisation. Something we talk about quite regularly now. And context is required in clause 4. It's the first meaningful clause in management system standards. There are ways of developing context of the organisation, but we favour the SWOT and PESTLE. So what does senior management do? They've got to ensure that those establishing the context documentation don't do it in a vacuum. That senior management have access to that process, that they are involved, approve, review, verify, validate, whatever it might be, that the content of any context documentation is really in the context of how the business is run, the environment in which it's run. So that's the very first thing they must do. Make sure things are relevant. The management system is relevant. And then senior managers need to have active involvement to understand how the system works from that point on. What resource is required to run it, how performance will be established and monitored. So how do you know something's effective if you don't know how you're going to monitor it? The next requirement is ensuring the quality policy and quality objectives are established and compatible with the context and strategic direction. So we've already mentioned how the system is designed to fit the context of the organisation. And I'll talk about the quality policy in more detail in a moment. But the quality objectives must contribute to the business, as I mentioned already. So there's a role for senior managers ensuring that they are aligned and have a measurable contribution to the business. Okay? What measures are included in your objectives which can demonstrably show that they affect the business in some way, in a good way, right? And that's what senior management have to do, to link quality objectives with strategic, organisational, business objectives. And they must ensure integration or into the organisation's business processes. So written processes must be aligned with the context I've mentioned already and must be relevant to the way the organisation runs. And senior management must oversee a system which allows process to do that. And this is a couple of things in the next requirement which are central to management system standards, promoting the use of the process approach and risk-based thinking. And this requires senior management to actually do some promotion. It doesn't say that senior management should ensure it is promoted. It says senior management shall promote. Yes? So they actually have to do the promoting. So they need to contribute to communications and awareness raising. They have to be involved in the process of describing to people what's important and why the standards are important. And they have to mention that risk and process are central to the organisation's philosophy. Next requirement is that they provide resources to the system. This is in many ways. It's not just let's throw cash at this. People need to be enlisted to run a system and to operate the system throughout the organisation. There needs to be competence, so an investment of resource in competence building. There needs to be specific expertise in whichever standard the management system relates to. There need to be systems to allow the hosting of documentation, the workflows, the forms, the authorization, those sorts of things. And there needs to be access, controlled access for people to be able to get hold of the things which help them to do their jobs. And what helps them to do their jobs is that documented information, the workflows, the forms, those sorts of things. And all of this also requires time as a resource. And again, we come back to another requirement, which is about the active involvement of senior management in communicating, right? Communicating the importance of an effective system and of conforming to the requirements of an effective system, okay? Again, actually telling people, communicating to people, telling them why it's important to them as bosses and to the workforce. Remember earlier I mentioned belief in leadership? Why would I bother if you don't? Well, telling people why it's important is part of establishing that philosophy. Tell people how this system makes your workplace a better place, how it contributes to success of the organisation, to happier customers, to happier workforce, how it can make their daily routine more fulfilling. My utopian world is a management system where the workforce come in, they turn on their laptop, they see the processes required to do their jobs, they see the forms they need to complete to record that they've done the job, they hit the submit button, they go home happy because they know they've done the best they can because they have all the tools to do the job. Explain this to the workforce that having a management system can do this for them. And also conforming to the requirements is very important. So what could non-conformity bring if people choose to step outside a management system? What that means to a customer in a non-conforming product? What that means to people's safety if we're talking, say, 45,001, if you step outside a safe system of work? What that means in your legal environment? So there are many different factors, and going back to context of the organisation and interested parties and that sort of thing, all those come into play if you step outside and you choose not to conform with your management system. Another requirement on the senior management is to ensure the system achieves its intended results. How are you going to do that? Their understanding of the context of the organisation, the establishment of objectives, the risks, the control measures which are required, that's key in them understanding whether they're achieving their intended results. But that has to be how it's impacting on the business. So again, the business effect has to have been established through the objectives, through the risk, all that side of things. The objectives, again, have to be aligned with the organisation, the strategic direction. They need to provide resources for the measuring. It's all very well saying, we will measure that there are X thousand widgets per hour going through our system, if there is no method for counting that and accumulating that data and reporting on it somewhere. And moving on to reporting, it's extremely important to establish the reporting lines, the governance arrangements, and the escalation of matters of importance to the right people in the organisation. And another requirement, engaging, directing and supporting persons to contribute to the effectiveness of the system. So not just promoting the system, but getting people involved, providing them with the skills, the resources that they need. And people at all levels contribute. Senior managers should be harnessing the people at all levels to be able to fulfill the requirements of the system. But they should do that by providing the clear expectation. So that communication, objective setting that we've talked about already, that's very important. People should understand what the direction is in order to be able to contribute. And then promoting improvement. Improvement's absolutely key to every management system. It is the whole reason behind management systems is to improve the organisation. It's the key to sustained success. The organisation, through senior management, must provide the resources for actively asking why things may have underperformed, so you can get to the cause of why they underperform and put them right. The resources required management must apply the resource to the plans to improve. And also recognition of improvement's really important. Telling people, we did well here, we've improved, look at what we can do as a team, look at what this person's done by contributing. That's important. And beyond that, moving on to innovation, doing different things, not just better things.
Are you new to ISO standards and want to know what it's all about? Or maybe your company has multiple ISO standards, but there's a lack of engagement and compliance. Whether it's quality, sustainability or risk standards, the Isology Hub is your one-stop shop for all your online learning resources associated with raising your company's standards. From as little as £99 a month, you can have unlimited access to hundreds of online training courses and achieve certification for completion of courses along the way, which will take you from learner to practitioner to leader in no time. So what courses are in the Hub? Well, there are courses on everything a head of quality, sustainability, information security and health and safety would need to manage compliance and raise standards. With over 100 courses available to you, here are examples of just a few. ISO 9001 Internal Auditor, how to transition to the new ISO 27001 standard, the role of ESG in quality management, and how to integrate management systems. But it's not just courses in the Isology Hub. You can access templates, downloads, and action checklists to take your business to the next level. So why not try the Isology Hub today? Just click on the link at www.isologyhub.com and you'll get access to all our resources within minutes. If you're interested in embedding best practice across your organisation or would like to develop an awareness and training programme for employees, we offer a free learning and development session to tailor a bespoke training programme based on your organisation's needs. So we'd love for you to join as an Isology Hub member. Just head over to isologyhub.com to get access to your unlimited training and compliance resources.
And the final requirement is supporting other management to demonstrate leadership in their areas. Leadership drives top to bottom. Everybody can have a role in leadership. And senior leadership have a role in laying down what the roles and responsibilities of every level are and helping people to provide their own leadership in their own area. Now, that's what the standard says is leadership and commitment. It then goes on to talk about policy, and I'll provide my definition in a way of policy. For me, policy is the overall intentions and direction of an organisation expressed by senior management, okay? It exists to govern the behaviour of the organisation and its employees in order to provide the best outcomes. It also provides the basis for establishing objectives, but it doesn't necessarily explain how objectives will be met through delivering individual tasks. That may be a detail that top management don't necessarily have to see all the time. A requirement of 9001 in 5.2 is that top management must ensure it's appropriate to the purpose and context of the organisation and supports its strategic direction. Again, the policy comes back to the context of the organisation and its strategic direction. It must be appropriate to what you're doing as a business. It is not simply a piece of paper being signed once per year and rolled out at your certification audit. Other things are mentioned in 5.3. I've mentioned organisational roles, responsibilities and authorities. The requirement is that top management shall ensure that responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned, communicated and understood within the organisation. Now, it doesn't say they will write job descriptions and responsibilities and assign these to people. It says they shall ensure. They need to provide the resource and the system for this to happen. But what they need to do is be actively involved in ensuring that people at all levels and in all functions of the organisation understand their contribution, and their contribution is in, from the standard, ensuring that the system conforms to whichever standard it is, ensuring that the processes deliver what they're intended to do, performance reporting, including on opportunities for improvement, promotion of customer focus, and ensuring the integrity of the system through change. Now, this one's quite important, the last aspect. They're all important, but the last aspect's important because change is a given, but also the nature of standards is that they promote change and improvement. But that change should feed back right into the beginning clauses of the standard every time. If you make change which is significant, the context of the organisation may well change. So you need to ensure integrity of the system by going back to see how it affects your organisation, its context, and the way your system is designed. And senior management do that through management review and other means. Now, I've talked really around the requirements for 9001, but I've got an example, a real-world example of how leadership works in practice, and this is related to health and safety. So it's a 45001 standard. I worked in an organisation where senior management did regular safety tours. They weren't safety, actually, they were quality, health, safety and environment tours. The senior management was each of the board, and each of the board members on a basis which meant they did 50 plus a year, went with another member of staff and with some representatives of workforce in the area that they were touring, and they walked around with a predetermined list of things to look at and questions to ask, and on topics of every matter which were related to the area where they were walking. This is doing walk the walk. This was people from senior management actually seeing the way things operate on their shop floor, or in their warehousing, or in their dispatch, or in their design department, or in their external grounds, wherever it might have been. The senior management talked to people working on the tools. They asked them about risk. They asked them about the risk assessments they used, the safety equipment, whether they were applying controls, whether they knew what hazardous substances they were using and how they could. They got to understand how people worked. Those people challenged them on safe systems, asked them questions, and there was a conversation between senior management and workforce on risk, environment and quality. This led to better understanding. This led to people believing that the people at the top actually cared about the system of safety, environment and quality which was being put in place. This led to an improvement in people reporting things, because senior managers would be seen at that point to write safety observations during the walk, which encouraged other people to write safety observations at the same time and subsequently. This led to better legal compliance, because the principles of participation and consultation in health and safety law were being embraced and easily evidenced, beyond just saying we have a health and safety committee. So for me, there are simple examples of senior leadership for 1 hour per month being involved in an activity which had meaningful change and an impact on the workforce. So I'll leave you with that simple example as a thought and my thoughts on leadership there. Before I go, I'd just like to take time to remind you to subscribe on your preferred media player so that you can stay up to date with all our latest episodes. And if you have a few minutes to spare, please, we'd really love to get any nice, shiny 5-star reviews if you can spare them. They really help us to reach a much wider audience, which is really important to us. And as always, we're always looking for any feedback. So if you've got anything you'd like to contribute, please do so. We're all ears. And that's all from me for now then. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.